National Stock Exchange of India has been actively involved with initiatives to educate the young generation of our country on the importance of financial management. One such initiative is NSE FinWiz that focuses on educating and advising the young workforce of the country on wealth management to enhance financial literacy and to empower them.
Insurance is for protection and investment is for growth.
Another program facilitated by NSE IPFT is NSE Financial Quest. This inter-school financial quiz contest goes an extra mile by educating the young students on fundamentals of finance.
What is this? It's the formula for the simple interest. Simple interest is the right answer.
Under the NSE Financial Quest Base Camps banner, the program engages students around the year through workshops on various topics, projects, interactive videos and quizzes.
DiCaprio is bouncing checks of Pan Am.
Plus 75 Plus 75.
To facilitate these two programs, NSE along with CNBC TV18 has travelled across the country to bridge the wide knowledge gap in terms of finance. In this episode of NSE FinWiz, we are all set to achieve our objectives once again by gauging young professionals in a new city.
Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Season 4 of NSE FinWiz powered by CNBC TV18 and I'm your host Nitya Balakrishnan. You've tuned into that one show that will serve as your personal investment guide in coming weeks, where you get an opportunity to interact with our experts who will take you through a crash course in financial literacy to enable, enrich and educate you to take those investment calls that will help your dreams come true. For the first episode, we're in the heart of the garden city of Bengaluru, in the sprawling campuses of one of the companies that is supposed to have pioneered the software revolution in the country, Infosys, Bengaluru.
Infosys Limited is an Indian multinational corporation that provides business consulting, information technology and outsourcing services and is headquartered in Bengaluru, Karnataka. Out of the overall employee strength, 35% comprises of women, and out of the total number of employees, 79% are software professionals. This software giant is the 15th largest IT service provider in the world and holds the 19th position in the world's most innovative companies as listed by Forbes. Infosys is the most admired company of India and is considered as a dream workplace by software professionals. It is also the most trusted brand of India with a place in the top 20 green companies. NSE FinWiz visited Infosys Bengaluru with the experts to gauge how the employees plan to accomplish their short-term, medium-term and long-term dreams with the theme Dreams Come True.
I want to start an NGO so that I can accomplish some of my targets which I feel towards the country, or as a citizen I feel responsible. And obviously you need financial independence to start things like that.
Most of the things in my portfolio are as a long-term investment, but I do take a risk and sometimes invest in the short-term things also.
I have a dream of owning a nice villa. I mean, maybe 10-15 years down the line. So I'm depending on my long-term investment only for that.
My long-term financial goal is, yes, I want to have international vacations every year. I want to drive a nice big fancy car. At the end of the day, I want to just make sure that I keep putting enough aside and that I live a peaceful and I'm not worried about my finances.
For this very episode, we have with us two very special guests. Let me take no time in introducing Mr. Uday Doot as well as Mr. Lovai Naglaki. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. So I'm sure all of us here are just waiting to get all your investment tips over the next couple of minutes, really. So you want to make your money, they know how. Let's take the show forward. At this point in time, when you talk about goals, they need not necessarily be financial. But let me first throw the question to Mr. Doot. How important do you think is investing and investing early when it comes to achieving goals, and how early is good enough?
I'm sure we all know and have heard of Warren Buffett, right? So sometime back in an interview, he was being asked if he had any regrets in his investing life. So he said, the only regret that I have, I didn't start early enough. And for people who know, when he started investing at the age of 11. Right? I think there is never, it's not never early enough, right? I'm saying whenever you can start with whatever amount you can start, it's good to start, right? Because you need compound interest to work for you, which people have often called the eighth wonder of the world. And the reason is very, very simple. I'm saying you want your money to earn money for you. So I think it's never too late. Whatever little you can start with, starting is more important than saying that, hey, I will accumulate a bunch of money and then see what I can do.
Mr. Navlaki, when we talk about goals, how important is the financial aspect to it? Because sometimes goals can be non-financial. For example, I want my ailing parents, when they're old, to be accessible to good healthcare. That necessarily means healthcare is my goal, but, you know, it is impossible in today's day and age without money. So, are we in a phase where money does literally make the world go round?
Yeah, in a way true. And I think what you spoke of is very true about financial planning, that you are actually sitting with an investor to look at what his dreams are. And we just need those dreams in whatever language he knows best. So for the want of anything else, let's say English. He's saying that this is what I want. I want to take care of my ailing parents when they grow old. So it's our job then to go further and ask more questions to understand what does that mean. When does grow old, you know, what is grow old according to you, number one? What do you think will be the type of illnesses or the healthcare that needs to be provided? What does it cost today? What would be inflation on that? So what we try and do is actually convert those dreams into money, in the sense that I want to know how much money I need, when do I need it, for what purpose. So what you are saying is exactly in that reverse order. For what purpose do I need the money, need that money, and therefore when do I need it, and then we work through and say how much is needed.
Absolutely. In fact, let's get everybody in the audience involved as well. By a quick show of hands, how many of us know what our short-term goals are, what our medium-term goals are, and what eventually our long-term goals are? I'd like you both to actually assess the show of hands here really and talk about whether this is good enough or there needs to be more awareness in terms of financial planning and starting it at an early age.
I think there is a confusion about what is short term, what is medium term, what is long term. I'm pretty sure if we took a poll, some of you might say short term is how great a weekend I'm going to have, you know, right now. And what is it that I'm going to do to enjoy my weekend? And for some people, short term may be, you know, what am I going to do, you know, next month or this month end. So it really depends on what you define as short term, medium term and long term. But I think it's all boiling down to saying, if I was able to convert this into my dreams and aspirations and say, when do I want to achieve that? So it could be buying a home, it could mean certain amount of international holidays, it could mean, you know, buying a farmhouse, whatever it is. So if you start putting that down, you will be able to yourself break down what is short term, medium term and long term for you. Because I don't think there is a standard answer to say, you know, what is short term, medium term, long term for me. It has to be exactly the same time frame as it is for you or anybody else.
Fair enough. And if I look at factors, Mr. Doot, that one has to keep in mind before actually going ahead and beginning to invest, will it be stuff like how much do I make per month? You know, where do I want this bank balance or this investment fund to be 5 years from now? What are the thoughts that one needs to like actually come to terms with before going ahead and investing?
I think if you ask, the best way to do it is obviously think through your goals first. It's like, if you know the destination that you're supposed to take, it's easy to figure out the route to reach there. Right? So if I know that this is where I need to go, it's easy to work backwards and say, okay, these are the steps that I need to take. Many times these goals could be very fuzzy in our minds, right? I mean, we really don't know. I'm saying, it's like the YOLO generation, right? You only live once, so it's kind of a thing. So you really don't think about what's going to happen 6 months down the line, 1 month, 1 year down the line. So it's at times difficult. I think during those times, savings typically as a decision, take it at the beginning of the month. I'm saying because savings by nature is delayed gratification. It is by nature delayed gratification, right? I'm saying you don't feel great about saving money today. You feel great by spending the money today, right? So delayed gratification. I'm saying let it happen right at the beginning of the month.
So we have a whole host of them waiting to ask you exactly how to go ahead and try achieving their medium, short and long-term goals. In fact, let me ask Thomas Matthew, who's currently the Group Manager of Retail and Logistics here at Infosys Bangalore. Thomas?
I have some immediate requirements, so for that I need the liquidity. And I also need enough reserves for my unforeseen requirements. But eventually I want to reach a point where I have my portfolio income. It might be my rental income or it might be my equity dividend income to replace my salary income. So how do I do that?
The way to start that is that you have the goals in place. I'm saying start putting down some numbers to this. As you put a number to these things, so maybe you will need to get that financial freedom, you might require say 2 crores. For that house you may need 20 lakh rupees. For your kids' education you may need 1 lakh rupees. And when you start working backwards, you say that hey, to achieve all of these things, I may need maybe to save 50,000 rupees a month. 10,000 goes for my daughter's education, 5,000 goes for that 5-year goal that I had, and the remaining money goes for my financial freedom goal. And because they are all of different time horizons, we automatically address what kind of instruments you are going to use. For the short term, you will typically use stuff like liquid mutual funds or a bank RD, because you need the money in 1 year, you don't want to take a risk there. For the medium term, you may start adding up some investments which will give you returns over inflation. So you may want to add some equity there. For longer term, you may want to add more equity because you want the portfolio to grow faster. So I'm saying that's how you start thinking about it.
We have Harsh Parekh, who's an IT engineer here at Infosys, and he has very clear short, medium and long-term goals. Short term, of course, establishing a rainy day fund. His medium-term goal is to create multiple income streams so that he can start up his own NGO. And his long-term plan is to try and retire early and invest in companies or startups.
So my thought is that if you want to build for a rainy day, then that money should never have been in the stock market in the first place. So you'll never have the worry of having the loss. The problem I think happens is that a little bit of greed comes in, saying I need money in the short term, but I'm hearing from everybody, including in the press and the media, that this is a great time to invest in markets. I've never done it before, but okay, let me jump in.
On that note, it's time to slip into a quick break, but you will want to stay tuned because when we come back on the other side, we will address specific personal finance questions and throw the spotlight on our core topic this episode, real estate. Welcome back. You've tuned into Season 4 of NSE FinWiz, powered by CNBC TV 18. Now, let me throw the spotlight onto the core topic that we're going to discuss this episode, investing in real estate. My primary question, Mr. Dhoot, do we look at real estate as a home owner, or do we look at it as an investment to lease out?
The earlier generation, if parents wanted to get their kids settled, they used to get them married. Saying, ek baar shaadi kara doge, once you get him married, he will be settled. Today, parents have figured out you don't have to get them married anymore, you just have to get them a home loan. Once you got a home loan, you have no escape, right? You got to pay those EMIs. Whether you hate your job, you love your job, you have to pay your EMIs. So I think it's a big commitment, and we should really think about why are we buying that house. Just because everyone else is buying a house, is that really what you want? Because once you're committed to it, your risk-taking capabilities go down. I'm saying whether you like your job, you don't like your job, you just can't change your job because you have to pay the bank. Essentially, you're working for the bank pretty much for the next 15 years, right? So I'm saying it's a big commitment that you need to think about. I'm saying it all sounds fantastic to own your own home, but really you can stay in a rented place for long enough and figure out other things in your life before you do that. So I think having bought a house, it reduces your risk-taking capabilities with your career. You don't know what you want to do, so take your time before you buy a house.
We are talking about everybody wanting to own that house. But when you actually go ahead and make that first step of investing into real estate, it's often looked at as a very bulky investment. And like you mentioned, it's not really liquid. It's a big commitment. In that sense, do you think it's a difficult choice of investment? And how do you advise, every youngster who is looking at some point owning their own house?
So, I think because of cultural sort of situation in India, most, and I suppose women, they like to own their own home because that's when they feel that, I belong to this place and I will do it up in the way that I really want to. So buying your own home is also got to do with like financial planning with goals. At what type of home do I want? Do I want a villa or an apartment? Do I want it in the central part of the city? I want it in the suburb. Does it have to have a children's play area? Is that an important thing for me, or a walking track or a gym? So I think actually spending time and not getting swayed by, oh, here's a great ad, here is a great discount sale, let me just go and buy it. You don't want to chuck that, and it's not something that you can chuck later on saying, oh, I bought this thing in a discount sale, bad quality, take though. It's not like that type of toy that you buy. So I think you need to do a little bit of thinking about why is it that you're buying, where are you going to buy it, and so on and so forth.
Mr. Navlaki, I'd like to get your perspective on Syed Azhar Ibrahimi's question. He is the assistant accountant in the income tax department here. And he says, how to raise finance for small businesses and enterprises in the real estate sector?
So typically in India, if I'm buying a piece of land, it's far more difficult to get a loan. If there is an asset sitting on it, then there's a better chance of getting a loan. And even the tax breaks that you get are available if there is a residential sort of apartment there. In terms of business, one thing that you should be aware of is that very recently there has been a real estate bill which has been passed. So there is regulation now coming in the space of real estate. Each of the states now have to pick it up and pass that bill. So it may vary from state to state. But it's an area that is likely to get far more regulated than it was today. So if you're thinking there are a lot of advantages of that space because of what you've seen in the past, the future may be a little different. So I would only say that, tread a little bit with caution.
And it's time to take another quick break right here on NSE FinWiz. But stay tuned, a lot more exciting personal finance and real estate queries on the other side. Welcome back. You've tuned into NSE FinWiz Season 4, and it's time to throw open the questions to the budding aspirants and young professionals here at Infosys Bengaluru.
I had a dream of owning a house and not to have any EMI after my 30 years. And just I turned 30, I don't have any home loan and I have a house. Okay, now going forward, where can I invest my money for my future? And as well as whether it's a good time to invest on real estate or in the stock market.
You are 30, you have already paid your home loan, so you are an expert, I am assuming, already in this whole money management piece. Down what your goals are. I think the goal that you're currently identifying is more saying that I just want to retire and make sure that I have enough money coming to me on a regular basis. If that is your goal and you have 30 years now, I think you build your assets accordingly. You take maybe slightly higher return investments, which could be equity mutual funds, which could be real estate. I mean, typically these are two assets which will give you returns which are above inflation as such. But at the same time, I'm saying make an account for your shorter term goals. Account for keeping some money, like somebody had spoken about a rainy day fund. I think you want to make sure that if something happens, suddenly there is some kind of a critical illness and I'm out of action, not working for 6 months, 1 year, do I have enough surplus to make sure that it takes care of me during that period?
My question here would be, what is the best option available for annuity in India, currently available in India?
And I think the questions that we are getting is what's the best. I don't think we have an answer. We normally tell you that these are 3 or 4 options or 3 or 4 different products that will fit into the basket, which will probably give you an optimum solution. It may not be the best solution because nobody will know what's the best. As soon as you try to get onto the best, you're taking risks. That what happens if it's not the best and what happens if it's the worst. But if I have a basket, then one of them, obviously out of, let's say 4 products in the basket, one will be the best, one will be the worst in that basket. But is that average a little better? And can I also get a peace of mind along with a piece of return,
And on that note, we're absolutely timed out on this episode of NSE FinWiz. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our experts, Mr. Dhoot and Mr. Navlaki, as well as all the employees of Infosys Bangalore. Thanks so much for participating. And viewers, thanks for watching.
So I had a long-term dream. I have a long-term vision and stuff. So I was working, so I'll probably have with this. Probably it might help my to plan better, basically.
Mr. Doot and Mr. Navlaki had given us great insights, and people like us who are in the 30-35 years age need that kind of insights to plan for their both mid-term and long-term goals. I mean, it's been one of the eye-opener for us.
So the whole session started with saying that any saving is a start. It can be as small as a very fraction of your salary, but starting is what matters. So what I'm going to do immediately is to start the first step by starting with a small stone of saving some part of the salary, and to make sure that my long-term goals are achieved.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.